Chapter 1382. When Diamo Xian went berserk, he was indeed terrifying. Yiqing Luo held her breath as she buried her face into his chest and shut her eyes tightly, hypnotizing herself to sleep. The man around her let out a low laugh. His broad and warm chest was heaving up and down. Yiqing Luo's face was scorched by that chest. She was embarrassed and annoyed as her face turned red. "What are you laughing at?" Diamo Xian still couldn't stop laughing. He slightly relaxed his arms as he lowered his head and used her hair as a pillow. "Silly girl, I asked you not to intentionally tease me. I didn't ask you not to breathe." Yiqing Luo buried her head even deeper in embarrassment. I didn't tease you." Diamo Xian laughed so hard that his chest vibrated. Yiqing Luo flew into a rage out of embarrassment as she stretched out her hand to scratch him. She had just raised her hand when her wrist was held in Diamo Xian's palm. His broad and warm palm was placed on her skin. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled as she wanted to retract her hand, but he held it even tighter. This couldn't be. A sign that he was about to go berserk? This thought flashed past her mind as Yiqing Luo's body suddenly tensed up. Xian, I must return to the devil class tomorrow as we are about to go to the South Continent. Before she could finish her words, that palm which was holding her wrist entered her fingers and intertwined with her fingers. His warm and smiling voice stirred one's heart. "So, Lil Luo is thinking about this." He lowered his head as his warm lips landed on her neck. Warm breath sprayed. Yiqing Luo shivered as tiny goosebumps appeared on her skin. Xian! Her body was even more sensitive than before. Diamo Xian's tiny movement made her body boiling hot. "Lil Luo wants it?" Diamo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's reaction in satisfaction as he gave a low laugh. "No," she replied without hesitation. No matter how sensitive her body was, Diamo Xian's actions, no matter how much it stirred her body and mind, Yiqing Luo was determined not to. If she nodded, she was probably going to die on this bed. Although, I really want it. Amused by her reply, Diamo Xian hugged her tighter. "But, in order to not let you resist this kind of thing in future, I will not do anything tonight." Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she arched into his arms and raised her head, using her sparkling eyes to look at him. Really? That pair of charming eyes seemed to be embellished with shimmering brilliance. Diamo Xian's smiling face was clearly reflected on it. Her cheeks were red, and her face was full of shyness. This impact made Diamo Xian's lower abdomen tighten. His voice was hoarse. He narrowed his eyes and said word by word, "If you tempt me again, I can't guarantee it." That burning goal was filled with an urgent desire for the valley. How could Yiqing Luo not tell? Her cheeks turned even redder. She spat at him and lowered her eyes. "You shameless beast. I'm telling you, you already scared me last night. I'm already very resistant to this kind of thing. Don't even think about doing it to me in the future." Overruled. His hoarse and deep voice was calm and emotionless. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and groaned gloomily. Overruled just because he said so? Not even married yet and already wanted to be the head of the household? She was the real head of the household. She couldn't control Diamo Xian now. In the future after they got married, wouldn't he go to heaven? Just as she was about to be incomparably domineering and snatch back the position of the head of the household, that scorching hot palm suddenly touched the profound phoenix ring on her fingertip. A burst of scorching heat entered the profound phoenix ring. Her fingertip felt hot and she immediately congealed her gaze towards her own hand. Chapter 1383. The profound phoenix ring was flickering with a red glow that resembled electric currents. A drop of bewitching blood fell right in the middle of the profound phoenix ring. This was Diamo Xian's blood. He was the one who cut his finger and a drop of blood dripped down. "Do you still remember the profound phoenix ring?" he whispered into her ear. Yiqing Luo nodded. Her eyes seemed to be dyed with a touch of bewitching red under the fiery glow of the profound phoenix ring. This ring was something that Diamo had left for her the first time they met. It was also the first gift that Diamo had given her. She still remembered that when Diamo forcibly contracted this ring with her, he had said something. He said, "Once you accept this lord's ring, you will belong to this lord." At that time, she didn't think much of it. She had never thought that she would belong to anyone. Unexpectedly, after going through many twists and turns, she finally became Diamo woman. She had just crossed over and met Diamo and accepted his gift. She and Diamo, it seemed like a natural fate. Thinking of the past, Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with smiles. She gazed at the profound phoenix ring that was still fusing with the drop of blood and smiled. "Ah Xian, from that time onwards, you fell in love with me at first sight. Otherwise, as arrogant and noble as his lord Di Zun, why would he give his supreme netherworld phoenix ring to an irrelevant girl like her without hesitation?" Yiqing Luo didn't believe that Diamo was someone who would lend a helping hand when he saw someone molesting a young lady. Even if Diamo was initially interested in this body of hers and lent a helping hand. But he would absolutely not give away the profound phoenix ring so easily. So, Diamo had fallen in love with her from the beginning. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and revealed a complacent smile. "I've seen through your thoughts, so you have nothing to say. You can put it that way." Diamo wasn't in a hurry to refute. His hand gently covered hers. The bewitching blood merged with the profound phoenix ring. He chuckled softly, his eyes filled with gentleness. "From the first time I saw you, I had an inexplicable urge to get close to you. Perhaps in the beginning, I thought that it was only because of the special nature of your body that I was interested in you. But the truth is, from the first time I met your eyes, my heart had already fallen on you." His sweet nothings, word by word, fell into Yiqing Luo's ears. The pink bubbles in the room were about to expand. Did he admit that he had fallen in love with her at first sight? Was he confessing to her? Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with warmth and happiness. "I'll take your heart. I'll take in your men as well." She planted a gentle kiss on his thin lips. "So, you will belong to me for the rest of your life. No one would be able to snatch her man from her hands. Even if Diamo wanted to leave, she would never let him leave. He was just that domineering. Just that ******. Diamo long and narrow peach blossom eyes were filled with tenderness and happiness. He held Yiqing Luo's hand. The profound phoenix ring on his fingertip had returned to its original luster. He held her hand and placed it on his lips, imprinting it on the profound phoenix ring. Chapter 1384. A token of love from the god realm of the upper realm? Yiqing Luo knew that this pair of rings had an extraordinary origin. But unexpectedly, it was actually something from the divine realm. No wonder, however, it was a Jizuan realm ring. Not only was it able to store all living things, it was also able to store spiritual energy. It is said that the man and woman who possess this pair of rings are able to understand each other and grow old together. Diamo eyes revealed a trace of emotion that Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Not knowing why, Yiqing Luo felt that when Diamo said this sentence, it faintly revealed some self-deprecation and bitterness. But in the blink of an eye that feeling disappeared. He looked at her and curled his lips into a smile. The luster in his long and narrow peach blossom eyes was still as intoxicating as ever. "That drop of blood just now activated our telepathy. Was it an illusion? The bitterness that Diamo had conveyed earlier, was it just her misperception? No, didn't they say that their minds were connected? That feeling earlier should be Diamo feeling. Why did he have such emotions when he mentioned the Netherworld Phoenix ring and the Netherworld Dragon ring?" Her hand caressed his cheek. Her slender and fair fingers caressed his slightly furrowed brows. "Ah Xian, no matter who this pair of rings belong to, now, it belongs to us as a token of love. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly, her eyes curved. To be able to connect with Ah Xian, it's really great. Since DMO Xian didn't want to say, she wouldn't force him to ask. For DMO Xian to reveal such emotions, it must have something to do with this pair of rings. She could tell. DMO Xian treasured this pair of rings very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have worn this pair of rings all the time, never taking them off. The only thing she could do was to seal this pair of rings with the warm memories between them. From today onwards, if you wish to look for me, there's no need to ask Ah Feng to contact me. As long as you wear the profound phoenix ring and call out my name in your heart, I will be able to hear it. DMO Xian held her hand tightly. His eyes sparkled with joy because of Yi Qing Luo's words. Then, when you call my name, will I be able to hear it? Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled as an uncontrollable smile surfaced on her face. Could she look for him at any time? In the past, she could only wait for DMO Xian to look for her. But she had no way of contacting DMO Xian. If he wanted to find DMO Xian, he would have to go through wind. Sure. DMO Xian seemed to have sensed the agitation in her heart as he gently sighed, as he guiltily pulled her into his embrace. I'm sorry. Other than you, I've never interacted with other women. I don't understand women's preferences and thoughts. I admit that my ability to read people is not weak, but I have overlooked your thoughts. He murmured beside her ear. Beiyuan said that girls are the easiest to feel insecure. When I want to find you, I can find you anytime, but when you want to find me, you can only go through Ah Feng. If he left, wouldn't Yi Qing Luo feel uneasy? Although he knew that Yi Qing Luo was a very strong young lady. But no matter how strong she was still a woman. If you miss me in the future, you can talk to me through the profound phoenix ring. A soft spot in Yi Qing Luo's heart seemed to have been struck by something. Her eyes were filled with gratitude. She rested her head on his chest and whispered, Ah Xian, thank you. I should be the one thanking you. DMO Xian sealed her lips and whispered, We still have a lifetime, let me slowly learn and understand your thoughts, so that you can be at ease with me. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened as she nodded her head vigorously and hugged him tightly. That's right. There was still a long time to learn. Chapter 1385. The next day, Yi Qing Luo woke up from her sweet dreams. DMO Xian was no longer by her side. Faintly, she could smell an appetizing fragrance. She looked in the direction of the smell. She saw a table not too far away, laid with a sumptuous breakfast. Her stomach grumbled a few times. She got up, the soreness in her body had eased by a lot. At least she could stand up now. The feeling in her legs had also eased. Stretching her waist, Yi Qing Luo walked to the table. She then discovered that there was a piece of paper under the porridge bowl. Yi Qing Luo's eyes shone slightly as she swiftly opened the paper. Indeed, it was written by DMO Xian. It was to explain why he left early in the morning. This breakfast was prepared by him personally, and he had already rushed back to the imperial palace to settle the matters there. Returning in such a hurry. Did something happen at the imperial palace? Yi Qing Luo carefully folded that piece of paper as though it was a treasure and kept it into the profound phoenix ring. She had heard a little about it. The confrontation between the imperial palace and the dark forces was still ongoing. Under such an urgent situation, DMO Xian even came to the academy to look for her. Just for the 7-day agreement that they had previously set? The timing was so precise. Did he know when her period would leave? Yi Qing Luo's cheeks flushed red. Her little hands cupped her face and patted it. Don't be love-struck. Quickly wake up, we must return to the devil class today. Yesterday, DMO Xian accompanied her for the entire day. DMO Xian returned to the imperial palace to settle some matters. It was time for her to return to the devil class. Taking a deep breath, Yi Qing Luo used the fastest speed to wash up. After washing up, looking at the table full of delicacies, she sat down. As she drank the porridge and ate her breakfast, she imagined the scene of DMO Xian personally making breakfast for her. After breakfast, Yiqing Luo was in a good mood. Returning to the devil class, it was inevitable to be teased by Yan Xiaoyi and Tong Ziqing. DMO Xian had specially asked Yan Xiaoyi to pass the message. To prevent these youngsters from worrying about Yiqing Luo and running over to the dormitory to disturb them. Therefore, the students in the devil class all knew that Yiqing Luo didn't come to the devil class yesterday because she was with DMO Xian. Facing the duo's teasing, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change. She would be shy in front of DMO Xian. That was because the target was DMO Xian. Yiqing Luo walked directly towards Long Yunzhan and was just about to ask him about the students' training situation yesterday. But before he got close to Long Yunzhan, he was the first to turn around and walk towards the class committee room. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as she looked at Yan Xiaoyi in a daze. "What's wrong with Zhan?" Yan Xiaoyi shook her head and sighed. "Don't bother about him, it's time, we have to start training." Should she say that Yiqing Luo was intelligent or slow? He could clearly see her feelings for Qiao Jin. However, she couldn't see Long Yunzhan's feelings for her. Long Yunzhan liked Yiqing Luo, and Yiqing Luo had been fooling around with DMO Xian for the entire day yesterday. Long Yunzhan's heart was broken. At this moment, he even forced Long Yunzhan to pretend that nothing had happened and talk to him with his usual attitude. That was too cruel. It was better to leave Long Yunzhan alone for a while. Yiqing Luo took a look at the direction where Long Yunzhan left, but eventually retracted her gaze. Their time was running out. They must grab hold of the time to train. The opponent's power was too strong, and if they were to lag behind by even a little bit, there was a possibility that they would become the Dark Force's food. Alright, students, there's still 8 more days before the Academy's exchange meet. In these 8 days, we must train even harder. Yiqing Luo clapped her hands. Those youngsters who wanted to tease her, but seemed to be afraid of something and in the end could only stifle their laughter. Dared to tease her? Chapter 1386. 5 days later, the director announced to the entire academy that they were ready to set off for South Continent. As the number of students in Devil class was too little, the director chose several tens of students from other classes. The so-called Academy exchange meet. It wasn't just the director discussing the Academy's matters. There was also the competition between the students. Every year at this time, every academy would bring their most powerful class and students along. No academy was willing to embarrass themselves in front of other academies. Therefore, to be able to bring the students out of South Continent, although it was an honor, but the pressure was also huge. Once they brought shame to the academy, their future would be completely ruined. Therefore, all the students had to put in their best effort. As compared to the interclass competition, they had to work even harder. According to the new class distribution, High Profound Class 1, 20 students were selected. Intermediate Profound Class 2, 50 students. Low Profound Class 2, 10 students. Finally, from the class of gods, Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai were called to lead the team. The director confirmed several times before he was assured. This time, there were a total of 142 students who followed the director to take part in the Academy exchange meet. Towards the director's actions, Yiqing Luo and the rest had no objections, only silently making preparations to head to South Continent. The main thing was that Yiqing Luo didn't have the leisure to care if the director brought the students from other classes along. Recently, the confrontation between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Forces had been placed out in the open. During this period, many of the so-called righteous people were gathering their men, saying that they wanted to have a life-and-death battle with the Dark Forces. But unfortunately, no group of people really charged forward. It was the Imperial Palace who found the nest of the Dark Forces at this critical juncture. They even led a group of Imperial Palace disciples to trample one of the Dark Forces' nest. It was rumored that it was a well-known figure in the Dark Forces, the nest of a certain force known as the Holy Technique. after being stirred up by the imperial palace. The entire dark forces were in chaos. Gradually, the dark forces started to show signs of collapse. Those righteous people saw that the dark forces had a breakthrough point and immediately led their men to rush up to help the imperial palace to have a life and death battle with the dark forces. This matter had spread like wildfire in the Nirvana realm. Because of her relationship with Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo had been asking Peach to help her find out news about the imperial palace. Although in this Nirvana realm, Dmo Xian could be said to be a person who could summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. But she was still worried about Dmo Xian. She did not want to hear any news about the imperial palace or Dmo Xian. With such worries, Yiqing Luo stepped on the path towards the southern continent. This time, the Heavenly Academy's momentum was not considered huge. During the interclass competition, the students had colluded with the dark forces and caused quite a lot of trouble. As a result, the reputation of the outside world towards the Heavenly Academy was getting worse and worse. If the Heavenly Academy was to advertise for the Heavenly Academy like in previous years, it would only make the outside world laugh at the Heavenly Academy. Therefore, in the Heavenly Academy's team, in other words, there were the dean, 5 elders, 5 teachers, and 50 guards to do odd jobs. Finally, there were 140 students. Some of these students had followed the dean to attend a few academy exchanges. There were also many who were visiting the South Wave continent for the first time. Chapter 1387. There were also some students who were looking around, pointing at the things around them and asking all sorts of questions. There were some students who understood, or students who wanted to show off their presence, acting high and mighty as they answered the questions raised by other students. Along the way it was extremely lively. As for Devil Class, the youngsters had gone on a few missions due to the establishment of the World Group. Towards this kind of itinerary, there was no longer any novelty. Some were secretly discussing the new training method. Some were training their physical fitness while walking. Some of them even added gravity belts to their arms and legs. Although the distance between West Continent and South Continent was not far. But based on the student's journey, it would take at least 5 days. As for the reason why it was journey, this was also the reason why the academy set off 7 days earlier. Because this time, the dean did not only bring along students from other classes. He even brought along the 2 freshman instructors, Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu. The 2 instructors immediately requested that they not forget to train the students on the way there. Initially, the dean did not agree as he felt that it was a waste of time. After all, the dean could not delay the exchange just to wait for him, a Heavenly Academy. But, the moment the instructor mentioned about the interclass competition, the Devil Class's students, walking the students of the other classes like walking dogs, until those students were exhausted, and in the end, laid on the ground without any strength to resist. The dean was silent. In the end, he agreed to set off earlier and changed from riding a horse to walking. Therefore, this time, in the team, other than the dean and a few elders, everyone else walked. After walking for about an entire morning, those students who were initially excited, in the end their legs could not take it anymore. One by one, they walked slower and slower, some even fell directly onto the ground, not willing to move. The dean reined in his horse and frowned as he looked at the group of dispirited students behind him. He felt that the 2 instructors' suggestion was right. These students' physical strength was really too weak, even if their profound grades were higher. But their own quality and strength were too far apart from the profound grade. No wonder his lord liked to eat the souls of wild profound cultivators and not the high-quality souls reared by the academy. Of course, it could not be said that these students had never gone through physical training. It could only be said that these students were too focused on raising their profound grades and neglected their own physical strength. He didn't think about whether his physical strength could carry the profound rank they had. Why are all of you paralyzed? Time to get up. Instructor Ho chided coldly. Look at yourselves now, Do you look like the students of the Heavenly Academy? If passers-by were to see the Heavenly Academy's students behaving like this, what would they think of you? I'm laughing at you guys for being tortured by the students of Devil class in the interclass competition? Or am I laughing at you bunch of trash, unworthy of the Heavenly Academy? Instructor Ho's words were merciless. His words pierced the eyes of the students who were paralyzed on the ground, causing their eyes to turn red. Useless. This was an insult to a profound practitioner. No one wanted to be called trash. Do you know why you guys can't be compared to the Devil class? Instructor Chu said in a mocking tone. Chapter 1388. In the intermediate profound class 2, Devil class was their common enemy. From the high and mighty, talented genius students, they had fallen to the point of being ridiculed by everyone, even their families had abandoned them. High profound class 2 students became students of the intermediate profound class 2. Dropped 2 classes consecutively. To the arrogant students, what kind of blow was this? All of this. It was all thanks to the Devil class. All thanks to Yi Qing Luo. The students heard the instructors mentioning Devil class. The students' vision all turned towards the direction of Devil class. They discovered that Devil class, who had been walking behind them, had unknowingly walked in front of them. 62 students, their footwork was in sync, in an orderly formation. There was no mess at all. What made everyone most surprised was, these 62 students, other than a slight blush on their faces, there was not a single drop of sweat, nor did they hear their heavy panting. As though walking for an entire afternoon, to them, was equivalent to walking a few steps. Hearing the 2 instructors' words, Devil class's students stopped in their tracks, as their gazes swept over in unison. Yi Qing Luo, who was standing right in front, had a smile which didn't look like a smile. That smile, in the eyes of the intermediate profound class 2 students, that was a blatant provocation. But on seeing those students, their expressions didn't change, as though even if they walked for a few more hours, they would absolutely not complain about it. These people were all freaking perverts? The students' inner hearts were on the verge of collapsing. Devil classes students, are you doing this on purpose? Definitely on purpose. Insisting on putting on a brave front at this moment is just trying to embarrass us. I've never seen such people who only care about their own selfish desires, totally disregarding the other students. It's too disgusting. The intermediate profound class 2 students grumbled in a low voice, whereas the other classes' students couldn't help but started complaining. They had all heard that when Yi Qing Luo was training for the freshmen, she ran 5 rounds around the academy's field. All the students couldn't hold on any longer. Yi Qing Luo was still running. The other students had no other choice, as they could only try their best to keep up. Those students whose legs had completely lost their strength suddenly felt that Devil class was pretending to be pretentious, purposely walking so fast, and even putting on a look as though they didn't feel tired. Hearing these words, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. These people were really pampered young masters and young ladies. If they knew, on the bodies of the Devil class's students, there were at least 80 caddies of weight. Would they be so frightened that they would vomit blood? If these people were only insulting her, she wouldn't be able to do anything. Right now, she didn't have the time to care about this. Rather than wasting his saliva, it was better to reason with these people. She might as well save her energy. But these students had dragged the Devil class into it. She narrowed her eyes, and her long and narrow eyes landed on one of the female students in the intermediate profound class 2. Yi Qing Luo wasn't unfamiliar with this female student. They had circled around Lu Shuiyu several times and insulted her several times. However, after she returned to the academy with the divine artifact, she became one of the cannon fodder girls who hugged her thighs. She was the one who started the conversation just now. These intermediate profound class 2 students were really bored to death. Lu Shuiyu, who deliberately stirred up trouble, and Yan Zhenfei, who liked to stir up trouble, had left. Now there were a few more cannon fodder girls, These female students wanted to follow Lu Shuiyu and Yan Zhenfei's ending, using the most humiliating way to leave the academy? Yiqing Luo really couldn't understand these female students' brain circuits. Chapter 1389. The students from the intermediate profound class 2 stared at the person who walked out. Their faces were filled with anger, but they didn't dare to say anything. Gradually, the discussions in the surroundings quieted down. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she gazed at the figure standing in front of her. It was Xie Yan. Why would he speak up for her at this moment? One must know that he was still a student from the intermediate profound class 2. Those who complained and accused her earlier were the majority of the students from the intermediate profound class 2. At this moment, Xie Yan totally didn't give any face to those students. Wouldn't these students bear a grudge? But, looking at those students staring at Xie Yan with an obviously fearful look, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but feel surprised. She secretly speculated on Xie Yan's identity. What student Xie said is right. It's because you can't do it yourself that you don't know how to find excuses and blame those who can do it. I really don't know how your families taught you. Instructor Ho sneered as the expression on his face turned colder. If you don't want to embarrass yourself, if you want to prove yourself, if you don't want others to think that you are not as good as the devil class, then stand up and continue walking, don't find any excuses. Those students were infuriated by Instructor Ho's words. No one wanted to embarrass themselves. No one wanted the other students to see them as a joke. They didn't want the other students to think that they were not as good as the devil class. Each and every student's competitive spirit was ignited. They gritted their teeth as they stood up and followed the team forward. Looking at the group of students who were following behind the devil class, sweating profusely yet stubbornly walking forward, the dean who was riding at the front frowned slightly. Aren't the instructors too strict? They are after all still children. In his heart, he was thinking, if these students died of exhaustion on the way, what food could he use to answer to the dark forces? From the moment they entered the Heavenly Academy, they are no longer children. Yun Duan shook his head with a face full of smiles. Although Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu's method is a little harsh, but to this group of students it is a good training. On the other side, 5th Elder Yun Hai chimed in, the performance of the devil class this year is really surprising. With the existence of the devil class, I'm sure it will be able to motivate the other students to work even harder. Yun Hai looked at the neat formation of the devil class with satisfaction. With regards to the performance of the devil class, the elders were actually extremely appreciative. From the start to the end, the devil class's students did not express any opinions, as they followed the group obediently. Could be fast or slow. In this elder's opinion, devil class is intentionally showing off their physical strength, to give the other students a show of strength. Yun Xiang snorted lightly as his gaze swept past Yiqing Luo in disdain. From what he saw, the students of the devil class were simply putting up a front. Second bro, Yun Duan scolded in a low voice. He glared at Yun Xiang and turned to look at the dean. Let these students persevere for a while longer. Maybe they can unleash their potential and see where their limits lie. The dean nodded. The students held on. After all, they were holding on. After walking for about an hour, there were already some students who couldn't take it anymore and collapsed. The team moved slower and slower. In the end, the headmaster still ordered them to rest for the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn before setting off. This news made the students cheer endlessly. Chapter 1390. The students fell down one by one. Lying on the ground with their legs limp, no one was willing to move a single step. Devil class's side also dispersed under Yiqing Luo's command as they randomly found a place to sit down. There were some students who remained standing, surveying their surroundings. This was what Yiqing Luo had taught everyone. No matter when, as long as they were in an unfamiliar place, they must try their best to remember everything around them. The best way was to draw out the map in their mind. In a battle, the side who was more familiar with the terrain would definitely gain the upper hand. Instructor Chu and Instructor Ho, as well as a few elders and teachers, were all observing the devil class. After seeing devil class's situation, everyone couldn't help but sigh silently. All of them were astonished. This devil class's transformation was simply too inconceivable. After Yen Zhenfei used the portraits to verify that devil class's students, they were the bunch of trash who entered the Heavenly Academy with the lowest results and were allocated to devil class. After that, these trash were bullied by the other classes using various methods. Even if the Academy came forward to stop them, they were unable to avoid the students bullying in the dark. As time passed, the Academy turned a blind eye to it. In the memories of these teachers and instructors, devil class seemed to have disappeared from the Academy a few years ago. Their Academy's wooden token didn't have any activity. A bunch of trash. Even if they disappeared for a few years, they would absolutely not be able to stir up any big waves. The Academy's teachers, none of them put this matter to heart. They had not expected devil class would use such a transformation to reappear in front of everyone. The current devil class, no matter if it was the team's coordination or their own ability, attitude and stamina, were all incomparable to the other classes' students. Even outside, these students' vigilance and keen observation towards their surroundings. Even for them, these teachers, they might not be able to achieve the devil class's students' precision. Who was it that made these trash to have such an earth-shattering transformation? Who was it that changed them? Under such deep thoughts, the director's gaze unknowingly fell onto Long Yunzhan, who was sitting next to Yiqing Luo with a cold expression. That side profile, that cold expression. He wouldn't recognize wrongly. This devil class's class monitor. Why would he appear in devil class? Just at this moment, a commotion suddenly broke out among the students. The teachers stopped their discussion with the students and looked over. A female student flew through the air and landed heavily on the ground. A mouthful of blood overflowed from her mouth. Whereas Yiqing Luo stood at her original spot and slowly retracted her leg as she looked at that female student with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Intermediate Profound Class 2, my devil class isn't afraid of trouble, but just don't want to stir up trouble. If you continue to play tricks in front of me, the next time, it won't just be one kick. Yiqing Luo, stop your nonsense. Yun Xiang was the first to slap the rock and stand up. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of the dean? How did your headmaster teach you? How dare you attack your own classmate? Yiqing Luo sneered. At most I was merely defending myself. She had already poisoned my devil class. Don't tell me I should still smile and thank her for poisoning my devil class? Poison? Those students who were paralyzed on the ground immediately sat up straight and looked at Yiqing Luo when they heard this word. Are you kidding me? Under the eyes of so many people, to poison the devil class? Chapter 1391. Yun Xiang naturally didn't believe it. He creased his white brows. Student Yiqing Luo, if you want to find an excuse, you should find a better one. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, how could this student possibly poison you? Yiqing Luo gave a cold scoff as she squinted her eyes, looking coldly at that cannon fodder female student who was lying on the ground. This student, can I trouble you to stretch out your hand for everyone to take a look? The female student held onto her chest with a pained look. Her face was pale as she shook her head hard. I didn't. I just wanted to apologize to you for the things I had complained about earlier. You suddenly struck. Saying that, she started to cry softly. As she cried, she stretched out her hand and spread it out. That slender white hand had nothing on it. When Yun Xiang saw that, his brows instantly creased into a bundle. Yiqing Luo, what else do you have to say now? Yiqing Luo didn't have any signs of panic as she looked at the cannon fodder female student with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Then, where's the other hand? The other hand of the female student was covering her chest. The other students all placed their gazes on the female student's chest because of Yi Qing Luo's words. The students present were mostly male students. This gaze was directly placed on a student's chest. Immediately that made that female student's ears flushed red as she gritted her teeth and stretched out that hand. Student Yi Qing Luo, I hope that you can apologize to me for your own actions. The other hand was spread out. The students' eyes widened as they looked at it. They didn't see any poison in the female student's hand. The students' gazes towards Yi Qing Luo were a little strange. Yun Xiang gave a cold harumph. Student Yi Qing Luo, your actions have completely affected the other students. Like what this female student said, you still have to apologize to her for your own actions. Elder Yun Xiang, you're indeed getting on in years and your eyes aren't working? Yi Qing Luo laughed out unrestrainedly. Her figure stretched out and she was already standing in front of that cannon fodder female student. The female student only had time to let out a terrified scream when her wrist was held tightly by Yi Qing Luo. The medicinal powder in her palm. Does Elder Yun Xiang want to try it personally? Yi Qing Luo smiled as she looked at Yun Xiang. Medicinal powder? The female student widened her eyes in astonishment. She wanted to withdraw her hand, but Yi Qing Luo's grip was so tight that she was unable to struggle free. Since Yi Qing Luo didn't mention it, no one paid much attention to it. When Yi Qing Luo said that, everyone's vision fell onto the female student's palm. As expected, there was a black powder on the female student's palm. Why, you're spouting nonsense. How could there be any powder? It's probably black dust from somewhere. The female student shook her head furiously, trying to find an excuse. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Her smile was extremely sincere. Since it's just ordinary dust, why don't you lick it? As long as you can prove that this is not poison, I will apologize to you. The female student's eyes widened. Hearing what Yi Qing Luo said, she wasn't sure if her palm was really poisoned. But it wasn't poison powder. It must be you. You want to frame me? Everyone's eyes are sharp. I've only touched your wrist. I haven't even touched your palm. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes innocently. From the start till the end, she had only grabbed the female student's wrist. This doesn't prove that it's not you. Before Yun Xiang could say the word frame. Chapter 1392. Elder Yun Duan. The female student looked at Yun Duan in fear. I really didn't. Then how do you explain the poison powder in your hand? Yun Duan asked in a deep voice. The female student was trembling in fear as she shook her head furiously. I don't know. I don't know why there is poison powder. I obviously put in a pill. It's a pill. The roaring stopped abruptly. The female student's face turned pale. Immediately, her face turned ashen. She actually confessed without being pressed. When she met with Yi Qing Luo's eyes, which were filled with ridicule, the female student finally understood. She had fallen into Yi Qing Luo's trap. Because the academy allowed the students to walk towards the southern continent, they specially prepared a water source pearl for every class. The water source pearl was similar to a space pocket. It was specially used to store water. One water source pearl could probably store enough water for 100 people to drink for a day. The female student was thinking of poisoning the water source pearl in the devil class, but she did not expect to be caught by Yi Qing Luo. That was what happened after that. This time you are heading to the southern continent for an exchange with the other academies. From the moment you were selected by the director and brought to the exchange, you are no longer students of the same class but students of the same academy. Yun Duan's voice was calm and gentle, but indistinctly, he emitted a kind of awe-inspiring aura which made everyone listen to his teachings in awe. In the academy, you can form cliques and the academy will not interfere. But once you are out of the academy, you must always remember that you are the students of the Heavenly Academy. Every word and action of yours represents the academy. If the other academies see your class fighting and killing each other, how will they judge you and what will they say about you? Do you think you have not embarrassed yourself enough during the interclass competition? Still want to continue to embarrass yourself in the other continents? Yun Duan's words became louder and louder. His words caused all the students to lower their head. If you have the thought of embarrassing yourself and attend the exchange, you can scram back to the Heavenly Academy now. This sentence made the students even more apprehensive. Immediately, Yun Duan's gaze turned coldly to the female student who was kneeling on the ground with her wrist held by Yiqing Luo. In front of the teachers, you dare to harm your own classmate. This kind of student, the Heavenly Academy does not dare to accept. This meant, was he going to force her to leave? The female student was terrified. She wiped away her tears and shook her head. Elder Yunduan, I won't dare to do it again, I won't dare. However, Yunduan's cold expression made the female student's heart turn cold. If he was forced to leave by the Heavenly Academy, her future would be ruined. She had already spread the news to her family and the other heiresses that she had been selected to participate in the Academy exchange meet. She was chased back with her tail between her legs. She would never be able to make a comeback in this lifetime. No matter what, she couldn't be expelled from the academy. The female student suddenly knelt down in Zi Qianqian's direction. Goddess Qianqian, I beg you to save me. I cannot be expelled from the academy, I cannot. Zi Qianqian's face was ashen as he glared at the female student. Suddenly hearing the female student's words, her expression changed. But her expression didn't escape Yiqing Luo's eyes. Student Su, I really cannot agree with your actions, Zi Qianqian said indifferently. Her beautiful face was indifferent. The female student's eyes widened as her body slumped to the ground. Qian Goddess Yu. Chapter 1393. Zi Qianqian's tone changed as her beautiful eyes gazed towards the direction of the director. Director, Qianqian feels that the matter of leaving the academy should be decided after the end of the exchange meet. Why does student Zi say so? The director asked. Zi Qianqian smiled. I don't know what kind of problems the headquarters will throw at us during this exchange meet. One more person means one more strength. Moreover, student Su had at most attempted to poison us, and now that she has repented, why not let her stay and give her a chance to make up for her mistake? Zi Qianqian would always follow them to the exchange meet every year. She was no stranger to the exchange meet. Every time the exchange meet, the headquarters would always come up with various problems to make things difficult for the various academies' directors and students. Zi Qianqian's words made the director and the other elders nod their heads in agreement. Upon seeing this, Zi Qianqian increased his persuasion. Student Su is definitely not willing to leave the Heavenly Academy. With this opportunity, he will definitely perform well in the exchange meet and live up to the dean's expectations. Finishing her words, she looked at the female student. Student Su, do you agree? Yes. Director, I will definitely perform well. I will absolutely not let you down. The female student quickly kowtowed. The director had no intention of letting the female student leave just like that. This was the food that he had carefully picked out. Not a single one less. Immediately, he followed Zi Qianqian's words and nodded. Since student Zi has pleaded for you, I will forgive you this time. If there's a next time, I will punish you severely. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Director. No one asked about the devil class's wishes. He didn't even say a word of concern. The devil class students indignantly wanted justice but were stopped by Yiqing Luo. In the Heavenly Academy, the director's words were greater than the heavens. Whatever the director had decided, they should obey. If they were to make a fuss, they might even be labeled as disrespectful to the director or disobedient. She didn't want the devil class to be tainted with any bad reputation. So we're just going to let it go? Tong Ziqing suppressed her anger and asked coldly. Of course I won't let this go. Yiqing Luo smiled slightly. A student from intermediate class 2 dares to poison us openly, don't you find it strange? Tong Ziqing frowned. Is there someone behind this? Zi Qianqian isn't someone who likes to help others. Would she speak up for a female student who is about to be expelled from the academy for no reason? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she smiled thoughtfully. The devil class students were enlightened. Zi Qianqian had always been arrogant, so why would he speak up for other students? Obviously, Zi Qianqian was the one who ordered the female cannon fodder to poison him. But Yiqing Luo still hadn't figured out what was Zi Qianqian's motive for doing so. Everyone treated it as an interlude. Soon after, the dean told the students to set off again. The expressions of the devil class students did not change. Far ahead, the other students refused to admit defeat and wanted to chase after him, but in the end they could only retreat in defeat. Along the way, Long Yunzhan had been secretly observing the conversation between Zi Qianqian and the cannon fodder lady. Perhaps it was because of Yiqing Luo's display of power. The two of them didn't have much contact. It took them 6 days to reach the South Billow continent, and nothing else happened. The steward arranged by the main courtyard led them to the courtyard of the Heavenly Academy. All the students directly fell onto the ground, sitting limply on the ground. Their mouths kept on wailing, and there were some who cried out excitedly. They had finally arrived. Chapter 1394. The main academy had specially set up a residence which was comparable to a palace. There were numerous courtyards set up in the residence. The courtyard, as the name suggested, was specially arranged by the main academy for each academy to stay in when they came to participate in the exchange meet. Heavenly Academy was the best academy over the years. Naturally, he moved into the largest courtyard in the main academy, which was also the first sky dorm. Without the permission of the Heavenly Dean, most people would not dare to barge into the sky lodgings. Because of this, towards the students who had no image and slumped on the ground, the dean didn't blame them too much. He only told the students that they had rested well and returned to their respective rooms to wait for the summons. Following that, the dean brought Elder Yun Duan and Elder Yun Xiang and hurriedly headed towards the main academy to report. Compared to those students who were slumped on the ground, on the contrary, devil class's expression didn't change, and they weren't even panting. 60 over people walked directly towards the dormitory area at the backyard of the courtyard. Hey, you all are thinking. A few female students stared at devil class's back view as they gritted their teeth to stop them. But their legs seemed to be filled with lead, totally unable to stand up. Hence, the students who had fallen on the ground could only look on helplessly as that bunch of people walked into the dormitory area. Su Xiaolian, who was also that cannon fodder girl, sat up and looked at Zi Qianqian, who was also drenched in sweat as she lowered her voice. Goddess Qianqian, they will snatch your room away. Zi Qianqian's expression turned ugly. She thought that her physical fitness was considered rather good. After walking continuously for 6 days. In these 6 days, she had been competing with devil classes students non-stop. Walking till the skin on her feet peeled off and the pain was unbearable. She didn't even make a sound. She just didn't want to be belittled by devil classes students. But she didn't expect that. These 6 days, she had completely used up all her energy. But she couldn't even be compared to a low-leveled student in devil class. This made the usually arrogant Zi Qianqian's self-esteem completely take a blow. Hearing Su Xiaolian's words, Zi Qianqian restrained the stern look in her eyes and snorted coldly. The dormitory is arranged by the dean. Which room she wants to sleep in, it's not up to her. In actual fact, Yiqing Luo had indeed stayed at the place where Zi Qianqian usually stayed during the annual exchange meet. After the group of students had rested enough, a teacher came to urge them to rush to the headquarters to meet with the deans and students of the other schools. Only then did they get up from the ground and walk towards the dormitory area. Zi Qianqian was escorted by Su Xiaolian's group of intermediate, profound Class 2 students to the largest room in the middle of the dormitory area. The moment he pushed the door open, he saw Yiqing Luo sitting by the bed, hugging a snow-white kitten, not knowing what she was whispering. Zi Qianshan's face sank. Su Xiaolian shouted sternly, Yi Qing Luo? This was Goddess Qianshan's room. You actually dared to snatch Qianshan's room. Who gave you the guts? Following closely behind them were 5 other female students. They were the same group of cannon fodder girls who used to suck up to Lu Shuiyu. Now, the intermediate profound class 2 was without a leader. They set their sights on Zi Qianshan. Exactly. Yi Qing Luo, how dare you snatch Goddess Qianshan's room? If this goes to the dean, let's see how you account for it. Yi Qing Luo was originally hugging Qi and discussing official matters with Qi. Suddenly the door was pushed open, and a bunch of women pointed at their noses and scolded. No matter who it was, their mood would be bad. Chapter 1395. Su Xiaolian turned pale with fright and subconsciously hid behind Zi Qianshan. Get lost. Cold words without the slightest emotion. She just raised her eyes and exuded a strong chill. Not only those female students. Even Zi Qianshan was intimidated by this chill. But at this time, Zi Qianshan must not give in. Since young, she had never suffered any humiliation. The only time was when Yi Qing Luo humiliated her. How could she give in to Yi Qing Luo? Student Yi Qing Luo, this room is my room. Zi Qianshan also released her aura and said coldly, the room here is not something you can stay in just because you want to. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows and laughed out loud. Your room? Is your name pasted on it or is it stained with your scent? You. Zi Qianshan was furious. This was obviously treating Zi Qianshan and the beast as the same kind. Yi Qing Luo brushed the long hair on her cheeks and smiled sweetly. This room is not something I can stay in just because I want to, nor is it something you can stay in just because you want to. Zi Qianshan clenched her fists. So, you are not willing to give in? Why? Want to fight? Yi Qing Luo ridiculed. Do you think a loser has the right to clamor in front of me? Zi Qianshan's face darkened and turned green and white. Losing to Yi Qing Luo in the last round of the interclass competition was the biggest humiliation in Zi Qianshan's life. And now Yi Qing Luo was using it to mock her. When had Zi Qianshan ever suffered such humiliation? The anger in her heart suddenly ignited. Before Zi Qianshan could get angry, Su Xiaolian had already retorted on behalf of Zi Qianshan. It's just a win, what's there to show off? That's still a win. Yi Qing Luo smiled. You were lucky. Our goddess deliberately gave in to you. Su Xiaolian's face turned red. Yi Qing Luo continued to smile. That's still a win. Don't be too proud. One match is nothing. This is not an excuse for you to forcibly occupy our goddess's room. Su Xiaolian stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo and stammered. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and maintained her smile. That's still a win. You. Su Xiaolian was furious. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? She had learned something new. Can't you change your excuse? Yi Qing Luo's long eyelashes fluttered as she blinked and smiled innocently. No. Night. Qing. Fall. Su Xiaolian couldn't bear it any longer as she pounced forward and was about to give Yi Qing Luo a tight slap. He had yet to reach Yi Qing Luo. He suddenly felt a dull pain in his chest. His body was flung backward heavily. Su Xiaolian's body sank and crashed into Zi Qianshan and a group of female students. Zi Qianshan waved his hand in disgust and threw her to the side. Su Xiaolian's delicate body hit the wooden table beside her and fell to the ground. She clutched her chest and pointed at Yi Qing Luo. You actually dare to lay a hand on me, I'm going to tell the director. Yi Qing Luo withdrew her leg and gracefully leaned against the bedside. Are you still a child? Why do you always want to tell on me? What's more, that kick of hers didn't hurt Su Xiaolian at all. It was Zi Qianshan's push that hurt Su Xiaolian. She didn't even know who was the one who hurt her. She deserved to be taken advantage of. Su Xiaolian was so angry that she almost cried. After walking for a few days, her body was already exhausted. Chapter 1396. If there's nothing else, then scram. Don't disturb my rest. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand impatiently. He didn't want to waste his time with this group of stupid people. She still had business to discuss with Qiqi. Just you wait. When we see the courtyard. Su Xiaolian was about to say something harsh, but her arm was suddenly pinched. She groaned in pain and turned to look behind her. His face turned pale and he shut his mouth. The female students didn't say anything else. They just turned around and left the dormitory. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Su Xiaolian's behavior made her pay more attention to it. Yi Qing Luo summoned Shi Ju and made it follow behind those female students, reporting their whereabouts at any time. Shi Ju received the order, and that palm-sized body turned into an afterimage as it chased up to the footsteps of those female students. The room quietened down. Yi Qing Luo released her perception and confirmed that there was no one else around. Then, he patted Qiqi's little head again and asked softly, "You said that you felt a strong calling from here?" Qiqi nodded her little head and said in a childish voice, "It's a very, very, very strong feeling. It's been calling for Qiqi." After that, it pouted and said in a wrong tone, "Master is the only one who can summon Qiqi. Why can Qiqi feel other summoning? Did Master give Qiqi to someone else?" Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh out. She hugged Mu Qiqi tightly and kissed it on the forehead. "Mu Qiqi is so cute. How could I bear to give Mu Qiqi to someone else? Don't worry, I will solve this problem." Qiqi rubbed herself against her chest like a spoiled child. "Qiqi, go back to the pet space first. I will take some time to bring you to the place where you were summoned to check out the situation." Yi Qing Luo comforted in a gentle voice. Qiqi acted coquettishly for a while more before returning to the pet space. The gentle smile on Yi Qing Luo's face gradually faded. She narrowed her eyes and furrowed her brows. This strong feeling of being summoned. This feeling only appeared after they entered the South Tide continent. In other words, there was a mysterious force in the South Billow continent that was summoning Qiqi. But Shi Ju, Kitty Li and Long Yunzhan didn't seem to have such a feeling. In that case, that mysterious power only targeted holy beasts? "Old man Sung, I have a guess." Yi Qing Luo pondered for a moment and decided to discuss with Old Man Sung. "This old man thinks the same as you," Old Man Sung replied indifferently. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips. Old Man Sung thought so too. In other words, her guess was very likely to be true. "Want to go take a look?" Old Man Sung saw through Yi Qing Luo's thoughts. Yi Qing Luo nodded her head. "If it's true, then we must make a trip there. But wait till the matter at the main courtyard has come to an end. After all, this concerns Qiqi. I cannot make any mistakes." But Yi Qing Luo didn't know. On a big tree not far from the dormitory, two figures could be vaguely seen among the lush leaves. "Ah Wu, isn't this girl a little interesting?" The person who asked the question lazily leaned against the tree trunk. That person was dressed in a moon-white brocade robe with a golden outline around his waist. His jet-black hair was tied up by a plain-colored hairband, making him look extremely messy. It was an extremely delicate face. It was a little handsome and a little feminine. His pair of long and narrow almond-shaped eyes further outlined his demonic beauty. Chapter 1397. Beside the white-robed young man sat a cold and impatient-looking black-robed young man. That black-robed young man looked extremely handsome, and even though he was sitting beside the white-robed young man, he didn't lose any of his brilliance. "Young Master Imo, if you're pulling me here to squat at a lady's corner and peep at her, I don't have the time to accompany you," the black-robed young man said coldly. The white-clothed youth immediately grabbed his wrist. His long and narrow phoenix eyes revealed a shimmering luster. "It's not like I don't know. Ah Wu, you've been wholeheartedly focused on practicing martial arts. You don't have any particular interest in women. I've pulled you here because this girl has her merits." The black-robed young man's brows creased as his brows creased tightly as he looked through the half-opened window at that indescribably beautiful young lady in the room. No matter how he looked at her, he couldn't see any redeeming qualities. The only redeeming quality was that face. But he had no interest towards women at all. No matter how good-looking his face was, it couldn't be compared to his martial arts practice. I heard that Heavenly Academy's students had walked all the way from the West Continent to the South Continent. The white-robed young man rubbed his chin. After a few days of walking, this young lady's class seemed to be fine. His handsome brows rose. If it was you, can you maintain the same state as her after walking for a few days without being affected at all? The black-robed young man's eyes flashed slightly. The white-robed young man didn't miss the black-robed young man's expression as his lips curled into an evil smile as he stretched out his hand and placed it on his shoulder. A few days ago, I've heard of Devil Class's Yi Qing Luo's name, and I've always been very interested in this mysterious class. I'm very excited to be able to meet you tomorrow. Suddenly, the young lady in the room raised her head abruptly. A pair of crystal-clear eyes which seemed to be inlaid with luminous pearls stared unblinkingly at the direction of the two young men. "Who?" A cold and sweet voice was heard from the room. That pair of charming eyes were filled with a biting cold glare in an instant. Just by getting close, they felt their entire bodies turning cold. The black and white young men's expressions changed slightly. They exchanged glances with each other. From each other's eyes, they saw the same astonishment. That young lady actually discovered their presence? Before they could be surprised, the girl who was originally sitting in the room had already rushed out of the door and was heading in their direction. The black and white youth suppressed the surprise in his heart and released his mystic rank. By the time Yi Qing Luo appeared on top of that huge tree, there was no one there. Only the faint fragrance of bamboo wafted into the air. It was fresh, elegant, and refreshing. There was indeed someone. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she stared vigilantly at the surroundings. She had just arrived at South Billow Continent and she was already being followed? Who was the person peeping at her from the tree? How did he manage to escape under her nose? Could it be were they from the dark forces? That was impossible. The dark forces had been thrown into disarray by the Larch Palace. He couldn't find an opportunity to send a portion of the dark forces to the South Wave Continent to chase after her. Then, who was the person he sensed just now? He was vigilantly pondering and exploring his surroundings. Suddenly, a small black thing leaped onto her shoulder. Its furry little head rubbed against Yi Qing Luo's face. "Shi Ju." Yi Qing Luo hugged Shi Ju and gently rubbed its head. "Did you manage to find out any news?" Chapter 1398. From Shi Ju's mouth, Yi Qing Luo found out. After Su Xiaolian, Zi Qianqian, and the others left the dormitory area, they headed straight for the headquarters. As he was walking, he didn't forget to ridicule Yi Qing Luo for not being able to make it in time for the banquet. As one of the students participating in the Academy Exchange Conference, the entire class refused to attend. This was a blatant disrespect to the headquarters. It turned out that those people had concealed the fact that the dean had summoned all the students to gather at the headquarters. Purposely not telling her about this news was so that the main courtyard would blacklist the devil class. After Yi Qing Luo heard everything, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. These people really did not take the instructor's words to heart. They thought that if the devil class did not answer the summons and went to the headquarters would only blame the devil class? This was not the Heavenly Academy or the West Continent. All of them represented the Heavenly Academy as a whole. She won't be there. The general courtyard would only target the Academy. The outside world would only say that the Heavenly Academy was disrespectful to the headquarters, and would not say that it was the devil class who was disrespectful to the headquarters. Had the intelligence of these women been eaten by beasts? How could he be so stupid, risking his future for a moment of pleasure? Only they could do that. Wasn't Zi Qianqian known as a genius student? Wasn't he extremely smart? How could he not think of these consequences? A woman's jealousy is truly terrifying. Old man Tsang sighed with emotion. Yiqing Luo was speechless. Perhaps it was because she had never experienced the so-called jealousy. Thus, he could not understand why Zi Qianqian would act out of jealousy. She put Shi Ju back into the pet space and immediately informed the other brothers to gather at the general courtyard. Outside the first courtyard of the Tianzi residence, two figures watched everything that happened inside from afar. The corner of the white-clothed youth's mouth rose, and he laughed evilly. "Ah Wu, that's a low-level phantom beast, right?" The youth in black narrowed his eyes and pondered. "How did she discover us?" "That's why yours truly said that this lass is interesting." The white-clothed youth raised his brows, and his smile became even more devilish. "Ah Wu, I feel that the exchange meet this time will be very interesting." Inside the general courtyard, students from the various academies arrived one after another. Gradually, the spacious hall was filled with people. There were at least 100 academies participating in this exchange meet. Even the smallest academy had nearly 50 students. The steward of the headquarters was holding a name list and reading out the names of the academies that had arrived. In the headquarters, admission was not based on one's status or position in the academy. It was first come, first served, so you had to queue up. The dean looked at the tens of students behind him and frowned. Why aren't any of the students from the devil class here? This is not a place for them to be willful. Zi Qianqian pacified the dean's emotions. Sir Dean, whether the devil class is around or not, it doesn't matter to us. Haven't we students been accompanying you all these years? It doesn't matter if they come or not, but this is a group activity of the academy. If the devil class doesn't come after so long, how will the other academies look at the Black Academy? Yun Xiang said with dissatisfaction. The dean's face darkened. Zi Qianqian, Su Xiaoyan, and the others exchanged glances and hid the smile in their eyes. Then, they obediently followed behind the headmaster, until the butler announced the Heavenly Academy. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Only then did the dean's expression soften a little. Chapter 1399. The arrival of the Heavenly Academy had attracted the attention of everyone from the other academies. The Heavenly Academy had become a laughing stock in this round of interclass competition. Students cheated, colluding with the dark forces. There was also the class of trash that was known as trash. It became a dark horse that crushed those self-proclaimed elites until not even dregs were left. Especially the match where Yiqing Luo single-handedly tortured Zi Qianqian. It was simply breathtaking. As a result, all the major academies were suspicious of the Heavenly Academy's miraculous class of gods. As a result, everyone was holding the attitude of watching a joke, watching the Heavenly Academy fall from the altar, to the fall becoming a joke. Their gazes searched among the Heavenly Academy's team. But there was no sign of devil class. The Heavenly Dean had already led Zi Qianqian and the rest to greet the Dean. The Dean of the General Hospital also heard about the match from the Vice Dean. He brought up the topic of the interclass competition and exchanged some pleasantries with the Dean. Immediately he asked, "Why didn't I see the dark horse class of your academy?" The Dean's face stiffened. Yun Duan immediately answered and smiled amiably, "I've let the Dean see a joke, those kids." He hadn't finished his sentence, but he was interrupted by a mocking laughter. "Devil class's students are very arrogant, I'm afraid they won't be coming." The person who spoke was Su Xiaoyan. The Dean and Yun Duan's expression changed. Su Xiaoyan's voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. At least those academies sitting in the front row could hear it clearly. Immediately, they started gossiping. The Dean's expression was slightly awkward. Perhaps he had not expected it and had never met a student who would ridicule his own classmate in public. Su Xiaoyan saw everyone's gaze on her. He only felt that he was able to send the devil class, to send Yiqing Luo to hell, so the words that came out of his mouth couldn't be stopped. "General Academy Director, you only need to see our Academy's thousands of goddesses, and that's enough. Devil class will not be coming." Student Su. Zi Qianshan frowned and pretended to be angry. Don't talk nonsense. This is not a place for you to behave atrociously. I'm not talking nonsense. Su Xiaolian pouted her lips aggrievedly. She still wanted to say something, but Dean Xian bellowed, Enough! Don't spout nonsense. Shut up. Then, he looked at the Dean of the General Hospital with an apologetic expression. My lord, it's my fault for not disciplining them properly and disturbing your mood. I apologize to everyone here. As he spoke, he glanced at Yun Xiang beside him. Yun Xiang understood and took a pot of wine and a wine cup from the waiter. He poured a full cup of wine and presented it to the headmaster with both hands. The dean of the Heavenly Academy had an ugly look on his face as he suppressed his displeasure. Dean, your Heavenly Academy is really getting more and more backward. The students you teach are of such quality. The dean smiled apologetically. He raised the wine in his cup and was about to finish it in one gulp. But suddenly they heard a cool and elegant voice coming from the door. The Heavenly Academy Devil class is late. Please forgive us seniors. At the entrance of the hall, a beautiful lady dressed in a green and white uniform led a group of young and handsome boys and girls over. Gentle and courteous smiles appeared on their young faces. Chapter 1400. Devil Class's student is here to seek forgiveness from the various seniors. Yiqing Luo stood in front of her brothers as she cupped her fists towards the principal with sincerity. The vice principal who was sitting by the side whispered into the principal's ear, She is Devil Class's student Yiqing Luo. Upon hearing Yiqing Luo's name, the principal's eyes lit up as he stared at Yiqing Luo and laughed loudly. It's good that Devil Class's students are able to rush over. It's too serious to seek forgiveness. It's all right. The principal had always liked young and promising children. In the interclass competition, Yiqing Luo's performance was simply too dazzling. The principal had long been interested in Yiqing Luo, and when he met Yiqing Luo again, and saw her sincere attitude in admitting her mistake, his heart liked her even more. This is the famous Devil Class. Heroes indeed come from the youngsters. Look at these children, they look so handsome. The one seated on the left was the principal of Nan Tao Academy, who was second only to Heavenly Academy. Nan Tao and Heavenly Academy's principal had been fighting openly and covertly for several years in order to fight for the best academy. Now that they met with such a situation, they naturally wouldn't let go of this chance to embarrass Heavenly Academy. Hearing Nan Tao's words, Yiqing Luo's face didn't reveal any arrogance or conceit. There wasn't even a joyous expression. She was natural and unrestrained as she smiled appropriately. I'm indebted to Nan Tao's principal's praise and high hopes. Devil Class really can't afford to be famous. Pausing for a moment, her gaze was firm. But I believe that based on our hard work, one day in future, we will be able to become famous like what Nan Tao Academy said, and not let Nan Tao Academy down. Nan Tao Academy's principal choked. He couldn't even say a single word. Looking at Nan Tao Academy's steely green expression, the surrounding students burst out laughing. All of them were praising Yiqing Luo for her ambition. In actual fact, they were praising this young lady's wit. Heavenly Academy's principal's expression had also eased up from the surrounding praises. He held onto his wine glass as he looked at Yiqing Luo with an amiable smile. You children, it's such a coincidence that Sir wants to meet all of you, come over and greet him. Towards the changes in the Heavenly Academy, the students of the Devil Class did not show any signs of surprise. Instead, they obediently and respectfully greeted the headmaster of the headquarters. The dean of the General Hospital smiled and praised him. He then asked the dean to lead them to their seat. How could Nan Tao's dean, who had lost face, let go of this opportunity? From the words of the Heavenly Academy students just now, it was obvious that they were deliberately targeting the students of the Devil Class. Anyone with discerning eyes could tell that the Heavenly Academy was having internal strife. Wait! Dean Xian, Just now I heard from the female student beside you that the students from the devil class are disdainful to attend the banquet of the central courtyard's gathering. Don't you need to explain this?" He raised his eyebrows with a righteous look on his face. "Students of devil class, why are you late?" President Nantao lowered his voice and said in a bewitching manner, "No matter what the reason is, as long as you tell us why you're late, the teachers here will definitely uphold justice for you." The twists and turns between the students. These deans were naturally aware of this. Who wouldn't be able to tell that those students were ostracizing the devil class students? As long as they gave the devil class students a little benefit, telling them clearly about the internal strife between the students. The news of the internal strife between the students. Chapter 1401. This was exactly what Dean Nantao had in mind. The Heavenly Dean's face sank. What does Dean Nantao mean by that? As the headmaster of the academy, I naturally do not wish to see the students suffer any grievances. Dean Nantao put on a righteous and awe-inspiring look as he stood up and looked towards Yiqing Luo. "Young lady, just boldly say it out. This dean will definitely stand up for you." "You!" Principal Xian's face turned cold. His face was filled with rage, but he was unable to forcefully stop Yiqing Luo's words. Otherwise, it would only make people more suspicious. The Heavenly Dean's anger rose as he glared at Su Xiaolian. If it wasn't under the watchful eyes of the public, he really wanted to strangle this rumor-mongering female student to death. Su Xiaolian felt a chill run down her spine and subconsciously grabbed Zi Qianqian's sleeve. However, Zi Qianqian shook him off mercilessly. It was obvious that he was prepared to draw a clear line between them. The students of the devil class. How did they know that the headquarters had set up the first banquet of the exchange meet? Why did they arrive at such a coincidental time? If Yiqing Luo directly said that they totally didn't tell her about the matter of the main courtyard inviting the students to attend the banquet, Zi Qianqian would definitely take the blame. He threw all of them onto himself. At that time, the dean would definitely not be lenient. Su Xiaolian's eyes reddened as she trembled in fear. Everyone's eyes were all concentrated on Yiqing Luo. Everyone looked like they were watching a good show, waiting for Yiqing Luo's reply. The reason for being late? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her long and narrow eyes looked towards Nantao Dean. That glance made Dean Nantao's face light up with joy. He nodded his head vigorously and smiled amiably. "Yes, don't hide anything. Sir, and we are all here, don't be afraid." Yiqing. Heavenly Dean frowned, trying to remind Yiqing Luo in a low voice. But he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo's laughter. Yiqing Luo's smile was like a blooming gorgeous rose, giving off an unparalleled charm. Every smile, every frown, every movement seemed to be able to tug at people's hearts. The surrounding people of the academy were already unable to shift their gazes away from her. Beautiful, her beauty was breathtaking and intoxicating. Even Zi Qianqian, who was known as the #1 beauty in the Heavenly Academy, was completely suppressed by Yiqing Luo's majestic aura. This girl, he was definitely a source of trouble. It was no wonder that the relationship between the Heavenly Academy students and the devil class was in such a deadlock. Not a single academy representative spoke to break the deadlock. Yiqing Luo's smile was elegant as she replied politely, "The reason why devil class is late is nothing that cannot be told to the various teachers." Dean Nantao was delighted. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo continued, "Because of this trip to South Waves Continent, the Academy specially allowed us to walk all the way to South Waves Continent's Valley Wind City in order to train our stamina, which took a total of 6 days. The hall was in an uproar. They had more or less heard about the news of the Heavenly Academy walking on foot. However, none of the academies took it seriously. After all, over the years, the Academy Exchange Conference wasn't just a simple exchange. There was also competition between students. The various academies all wished that their students could eat and sleep well, so that they could fight with their best spirit. who would be willing to waste the energy of the students on the way. Unexpectedly, the Heavenly Academy really did it. Chapter 1402. It's our devil class's fault for being late, so how can we trouble Dean Nan Tao to help us plead for leniency? Yi Qing Luo bowed deeply to the dean. Sir is kind and generous, not haggling with us kids. Qing Luo feels guilty and punished myself with a glass of wine. May all the teachers forgive devil class's behavior. Saying that, she stood up straight and picked up a glass of wine from the waiter's hand, draining it in one gulp. Decisive and direct action. Appropriate and humble words. Winning the favor of many of the teachers present. This was an intelligent girl, knowing how to shoulder all the responsibility on herself, knowing how to clear the academy of any negative comment. As compared to those female students who spoke out about the discord between themselves and their classmate. Devil class's student Yi Qing Luo was the truly intelligent female student. If their academy had such students who were not united in front of outsiders, they would absolutely expel that student from the academy, in case they disturbed the academy's peace. Dean Xian's expression eased up. The gaze he shot towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with sincerity and warmth. Yi Qing Luo wasn't considered stupid. Dean Xian was extremely delighted by Yi Qing Luo's words as he laughed out loud. Good lass. Good lass, quickly follow your dean to your seat and have a good rest. Yi Qing Luo led the devil class students to express her gratitude. Following that, she followed Dean Xian to the first seat on the right. The 100 or so students lined up one after another. Yi Qing Luo had gained the fondness of the dean earlier, and she was after all the champion class in the Heavenly Academy. Dean Xian arranged devil class's seat right at the front. Beside Yi Qing Luo were Long Yunzhan and Yan Xiaoyi, and next to them were Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai. Some were happy while others were worried. Yi Qing Luo's words earlier were totally flawless. But in Dean Nan Tao's ears, it was obvious that she was mocking him. Mocking that he was narrow-minded and only knew how to make use of children to achieve his own goals. He admitted that Yi Qing Luo's sarcasm was right. But he was ridiculed to such a state by a student in front of the various academies' deans. How could he tolerate this? At this moment, Dean Nan Tao not only hated the Heavenly Academy for snatching his position as the #1 academy, he also hated the bunch of yellow-haired brats in devil class. To put it bluntly, this exchange conference banquet was actually a welcoming banquet. The headmaster of the General Academy routinely asked the deans of each academy about the current situation of the academies. Following that, he used the Heavenly Academy's interclass competition to praise the devil class. After 3 rounds of drinks, the director of the General Hospital finally revealed the main purpose of today's visit. A few days ago, I invited the famous martial arts fanatic of the Nirvana realm, Mr. Gui Wu. Ghost warrior? All the deans sucked in a breath of cold air. Soon after, he looked around, wanting to see what the legendary ghost martial artist looked like. In the Nirvana realm, the ghost martial artist could be considered as a first-rate expert. He did not compete with Xian Qi, only with physical combat. There was probably no one in the world who could be his opponent. This person loved to practice martial arts and was a complete martial arts fanatic. And he especially liked to find people to spar with. There was a taboo in sparring with him. That was, since it was a spar, then it could only be physical combat and absolutely could not use Xian Qi. If the opponent dared to use Xian Qi during the spar, the outcome would definitely be extremely tragic. Don't think that just because the ghost martial artist was a martial arts fanatic, he didn't have a profound grade. Chapter 1403. When Gui Wu's name appeared, the representatives of the various academies were unable to contain the excitement in their hearts. In previous years, students from the various academies would display what they have learned in the academies, said the dean of the General Hospital with a benevolent smile on his face. It wasn't hard to tell that he was in an extremely good mood after inviting Gui Wu over. For this year's exchange meet, This lord feels that it would be better to assign the students to the Ghost Martial School and let them undergo 7 days of training. After that, the students of the various academies will compete with each other. What do you all think? All the academies were shocked. All of them nodded in agreement. How could they have any objections? He could be trained by a ghost warrior. To them, this was a great honor. How could they possibly refuse? The students were also excited. No one wanted to miss this opportunity. Even Zi Qianqian clenched his fists in excitement. As for the devil class, their expressions were still as calm as before. Zi Qianqian saw this and only sneered in disdain, thinking that Yiqing Luo and these lowly trash didn't know who Gui Wu was. Ghost warrior? Yiqing Luo mumbled this name softly, as she glanced sideways at Long Yunzhan. Martial fanatics training will definitely be of great help to us. Long Yunzhan lightly nodded his head. But there might be problems in the competition. His clear blue eyes glanced in Zi Qianqian's direction. This was indeed a problem. The competition after the training was the Academy's competition. As for Zi Qianqian and the others, it was obvious that they would not coexist peacefully with the devil class, not to mention working together. From the moment he walked into the hall, he had been clearly provoked by Dean Nantao's words. Yiqing Luo was almost certain that Zi Qianqian and the others had probably done something stupid. The other academies were likely to take advantage of this point to deal with the Heavenly Academy in the competition. Whether they want to help or not, it's up to us. Yan Xiaoyi cast a disdainful glance at Zi Qianqian, who was beside her, and sneered. They don't have a sense of teamwork, but we don't. That's enough. That's right. We don't need their help. Kitty Li, who was sitting behind them, chimed in. Kitty Li's voice carried the soft murmur of a cat, her voice soft and gentle. But Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai, who were sitting in the front row, heard it clearly. Zi Qianqian's expression darkened as he stared coldly at Kitty Li. Before they could open their mouths, they heard Wei Beilai's displeased voice ring out, "You can rest assured about this. We are students of the elite class after all. Compared to trash like you who only manage to cultivate to the profound rank by using some kind of crooked method, we definitely won't drag you down. But you guys, don't give me any trouble." When Yiqing Luo heard that, she laughed instead of getting angry. Her long and narrow eyes curved, and she smiled happily. "You're right, we can't ask too much of you. As long as you don't give us any trouble, that's enough." The devil class students behind him all burst out in laughter. Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai's faces were ashen as they suppressed their anger. Sitting at the front, the Heavenly Dean and the 2 elders, Yun Yun and Yun Xiang, sensed something strange behind them and gave them a warning glance. The banquet came to an end under the atmosphere of all the academies hiding daggers in their smiles, all kinds of conspiracies, and all kinds of schemes. At the end of the banquet, the main courtyard's dean specially asked the devil class to stay. "Tomorrow's training, you have to double your efforts. This lord thinks highly of you," the main courtyard's dean personally instructed. Chapter 1404. This devil class, how did they manage to capture the principal's heart? How could they even get the principal's personal instructions? Over the years, only the devil class had enjoyed such treatment. Devil class and the rest humbly thanked the principal. Following that, they left the Heavenly Dean's entourage. Due to the envious gazes from the other deans, the Heavenly Dean's vanity was satisfied. So much so that along the way, he didn't give the devil class any face. He even changed his usual behavior and would chat with Yiqing Luo from time to time. Yun Duan also chimed in by the side, praising Yiqing Luo. Along the way, it was bustling with laughter. On the contrary, Zi Qianqian and his entourage remained silent. Devil class was the center of attention. On the contrary, she was a student of the Heavenly Academy's class of gods, a proud daughter of heaven. She couldn't even compare to a devil class. During the entire banquet, no one mentioned her, Zi Qianqian. Everyone's attention was placed on devil class, on Yiqing Luo. Goddess Qianshan, don't be angry, they won't be able to shine for long. Su Xiaolian whispered into Zi Qianshan's ear. She had just opened her mouth when Zi Qianshan's cold eyes swept past her. Zi Qianshan's expression was sinister. Because of jealousy, it revealed a bone-piercing chill. It's all your fault. How dare you spout nonsense in front of Sir? If not for this, Sir would not remember Devil Class. Remember Yi Qing Luo, that slut. Su Xiaolian hung her head aggrievedly. Weren't these the words Zi Qianshan had instructed her previously? As long as she found an opportunity, she would think of ways to embarrass Devil Class. To make the principal of the Heavenly Academy feel disgusted at the mention of Devil Class? But these words, Su Xiaolian didn't dare to say it out. Goddess Qianshan, don't worry, next time. There won't be a next time. Su Xiaolian's eyes flashed a trace of ruthlessness. Tomorrow, won't Sir Gui Wu give us training? Sir Gui Wu is a complete martial arts fanatic. We can borrow Sir Gui Wu's strength to give Devil Class a heavy blow. Zi Qianshan narrowed his eyes. Is Sir Gui Wu someone we can make use of? Doesn't Devil Class like to be in the limelight? Then let her be in the limelight. As long as she attracts Sir Gui Wu's attention, we can add fuel to the fire. Su Xiaolian chuckled, her eyes filled with jealousy and resentment. Zi Qianshan pondered for a moment, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. She did not answer Su Xiaolian's question. But he didn't stop her. Su Xiaolian understood that she was being used by Zi Qianshan again. He returned to his dormitory number 1. Yi Qing Luo and Zi Qianshan coincidentally walked towards the same room. Zi Qianshan's footsteps halted as he recalled that his room had been forcefully occupied by Yi Qing Luo. Recalling the director's attitude towards Yi Qing Luo earlier, Zi Qianshan knew very well that if she insisted on getting the headmaster to step in, it would only make the headmaster hate her. For a room, it's not worth it. Zi Qianshan snorted coldly, turned around and walked to another room. Yi Qing Luo sneered as she returned to her room. Entering South Wave's continent for the first time, Yi Qing Luo was prepared to take some time to investigate the general situation of South Wave's continent. Fortunately, Peach was also chosen by the dean this time. Earlier on the way back to the academy, Yi Qing Luo had already asked Peach to get her Peach Blossom 3000 mercenary group to give her a rough map of the South Continent. The feeling of being summoned by Chi-Chi. She was very interested. Following Gui Wu's training was a total of 7 days. Including the competition between the academy's students, it would take at least 10 days to half a month. Chapter 1405. Suddenly Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up. Her gaze congealed towards a spot on the roof as she asked in a low voice, "Wind, are you there?" A gust of hurricane struck. She saw a young man dressed in black standing in the middle of the room. That immature face, icy cold expression, and his voice was emotionless. Miss Yi. Ever since that snitch incident, Wind's heart had gradually confirmed Yi Qing Luo's existence. He was also willing to stay by Yi Qing Luo's side, protecting her in secret. Although Wind had not directly addressed Yi Qing Luo as mistress of the Imperial Palace, like Tang Beiyuan, but his attitude towards Yi Qing Luo was obviously different from before. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand, asking him to come over. Wind hesitated for a moment, but still went nearer. A pair of eyes didn't dare to look at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she asked in a low voice, "Have you been inquiring about the Imperial Palace these few days?" Wind shook his head. "I've been ordered to protect Miss Yi, not leaving her side." "You don't know about the Imperial Palace's current situation?" Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly, thinking that she could find out some news about DMO Xian from Wind. Wind shook his head again. As he shook, he seemed to have understood something. "If Miss Yi wants to know about the Overlord situation, you can ask him personally." DMO Xian had already activated the telepathic link between the Profound Dragon Ring and the Profound Phoenix Ring. As long as Yi Qing Luo wanted, she could contact the Overlord DMO Xian anytime. Why was there a need to specially find him to inquire about the Overlord's news? Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. I don't want to disturb him intentionally. At this juncture, DMO Xian must be busy with the Imperial Palace's matters. The reason why the Imperial Palace was involved with the Dark Forces. The main reason was because of her. DMO Xian went to destroy Wolf Saint's forces because of her. After this confrontation with the Dark Forces, the Dark Forces had indeed suffered a heavy blow. But Yiqing Luo was very clear. The Dark Forces would absolutely not let this matter rest. The Imperial Palace must have suffered a heavy blow in this confrontation. If she was concerned about DMO Xian through the profound Phoenix Ring, she was afraid she would not be able to control herself and wanted to see him. Hearing his voice, she wanted to see him. She wanted him to hold her in his arms and feel his warmth. She did not want to become DMO Xian's burden. She didn't wish for DMO Xian to hurt the hearts of the brothers in the Imperial Palace because of her. At this moment, what the Imperial Palace needed the most was DMO Xian to hold the fort. Wind fell silent. He could tell that Yiqing Luo was sincerely thinking for DMO Xian. He didn't approve of Yiqing Luo contacting the Overlord under such circumstances. He believed it. Based on the D Zun's personality, he would absolutely abandon the mess in the Imperial Palace and run over to meet Yiqing Luo. It was right for Yiqing Luo not to contact the Overlord first. Ah Feng. Yiqing Luo suddenly smiled and changed the topic. Actually, I want to ask you for a favor. Wind immediately regained his senses as he looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze. Tomorrow, I'm going to participate in the Academy's training. It will last for 7 days. Yiqing Luo summoned Chi-Chi from the pet space. If it's convenient, can you help me to search for a place and remember the map for me? Where? Ah Feng hesitated for a moment and asked. Chapter 1406. South Continent. Chi-Chi had sensed a strong calling. After her training in the academy, to find time to search for it, it would probably take up a lot of time. Might as well let Wind go scout the way first. By then, she would bring Chi-Chi over. At least it would save more than half of the time. Wind's expression changed slightly when he heard that. Miss Yi, the Overlord asked me to protect your safety. The place that Chi-Chi mentioned was half a day's journey from Valley Wind City. A round trip would take an entire day. He still had to find out the surrounding roads and draw a map for Yiqing Luo. No matter what, she would have to spend the night there at the earliest. It's all right, I'm in the headquarters training with ghost martial artists. For a total of 7 days, even if the Dark Forces want to find trouble with me, they can't possibly do anything to me in the headquarters. Yiqing Luo saw Wind's worries and comforted him softly. At most, it's Zi Qianqian and those who can't be seen in public who would secretly do something. Wind hesitated. Yiqing Luo was training with ghost martial artists in the headquarters. It was indeed very safe. Wind had witnessed Yiqing Luo's battle power. Like Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian, those who wanted to make a move on Yiqing Luo. It was totally countered by Yiqing Luo in minutes. Don't worry, I'll tell Ah Xian about it. Yiqing Luo saw the struggle in Wind's eyes and stood up. Then, tomorrow after I go to the headquarters training grounds, if you feel that I'm safe there, then you can make a decision, how about that? Yiqing Luo took a step back. Wind also took a step back and agreed to this request. The next day, before it was 7 in the morning, all the students were woken up by Dean and the 2 elders. Devil classes students usually woke up at this time to start their morning training. Hence, not long after Principal Xian called out, the students of Devil class were already standing neatly in the courtyard. 62 students, no more, no less. Dean Xian's gaze towards Devil class revealed a trace of astonishment. I seem to finally understand the reason why Devil classes students were able to get first place. Yun Duan stood at the side, stroking his white beard as he looked at the youths in the Devil class who were standing ramrod straight, his eyes filled with admiration. Instructor Chu gave a rare smile. From the first day of training Yi Qing Luo, I have an intuition that this girl can bring unlimited motivation to the people around her. Instructor Ho gave a rare compliment. Ever since student Yi Qing Luo entered the Devil class, I've already guessed that the students in the Devil class would undergo an earth-shattering change. The two instructors were obviously not good at praising others. After this compliment, both of them felt a little awkward. They looked at each other. Suddenly, they laughed at the same time. That lass is someone who can create miracles. We're not surprised that the students of Devil class would have such a huge change. The two instructors said this in unison. The two of you are called cold instructors by the students, but you're actually praising a student like there's no one else in the world. Yun Duan's face was full of smiles, not forgetting to tease the two instructors. The instructors' expressions changed slightly, their cold and dignified gazes swept across the rows of youngsters in front of them. We acknowledge her ability. Just as they were speaking, the other students rushed over one after another. The students were still in a daze from sleep. They also didn't see clearly who the group of students standing in the courtyard were. One by one, they ran to the side of Devil class in a fluster. With this comparison. Chapter 1407. The Heavenly Dean furrowed his brows as he looked at the students, who were still drowsy, and then at the Devil class, who were in high spirits. He was getting more and more dissatisfied with the students. The other students did not have the sense of urgency during training. They thought the dean wanted to hold a meeting for them before heading to the training grounds. The students did not pay much attention as they yawned and stood crookedly. Some of them were rubbing their sleepy eyes as they chatted softly with the students beside them. He had an extremely lazy look on his face. The dean's face turned darker and darker. When his gaze landed on Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai, the expression on his face eased up slightly. Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai stood at the side of the Devil class, dressed neatly and in high spirits as they stood upright. Fortunately, he still had two students from the class of God. This gave the dean some comfort. Looking at the other students, the dean glanced at Yun Xiang, who was at the side with a calm face. Yun Xiang understood and immediately coughed a few times. A scolding voice filled with profound qi spread in the sky above Tianzi Dormitory No. 1. Finally, it made those lazy students perk up. The Heavenly Academy's face was calm as they preached to everyone as usual, emphasizing that in the next 7 days, they must be united and harmonious, help each other and strive to suppress the prestige of the other schools. In the preaching, the students' spirits gradually sobered up. After about half an hour, the dean looked at the time and allowed the two instructors to lead the group of students to the training grounds of the headquarters. The group of people stepped on the road in a grandiose manner. No one noticed that on a big tree not far from Tianzi Dormitory No. 1, a young man in a white robe was pulling a young man in black, spying on everything in the Heavenly Academy. The young man in black was impatient. "Young Master Mo, what are you trying to do? Even if you are interested in that girl, you don't have to drag me along, right?" The young man in white raised his eyebrows and laughed evilly. "Ah woo, we are good brothers, of course you can't miss out on such things like squatting at the corner." Saying that, he used his elbow to nudge the young man in black. "I am getting more and more interested in the Devil class, TSK. This training seems to be very interesting." The young man in black had a cold face and did not say a word. The training grounds of the headquarters. By the time the Heavenly Academy arrived, there were already quite a number of students who had arrived. The deans of the various academies had to go to the main hall of the headquarters to discuss the exchange between the academies with the deans. Therefore, all the students were led by their own instructors, elders, or teachers. The moment the Heavenly Academy arrived, the headquarters masters came forward to receive them and headed towards their direction. The Heavenly Academy was the top academy. He was standing at the first position near the entrance of the training ground. Next door was Nantao Academy. There were already about 20 to 30 academies that had arrived. The students also became more and more spirited and excited in this exciting and tense atmosphere. Their gazes scanned the surroundings for students from the other academies, and some even started chatting with each other. The students from the various academies were of similar ages, so it was easy for them to chat. Another hour passed, and all the academies had arrived. They stood in their respective positions according to their class. Surrounded by a group of elders, the vice dean stood in front of the students of the various academies. There were also students who couldn't stop their voices. Chapter 1408. In a split second, the entire training ground was dead silent. The vice dean of the general hospital swept his gaze over the childish faces below with a dignified look. His gaze finally stopped in the direction of the Heavenly Academy. Yiqing Luo noticed that the vice president's gaze was fixed on her. She was stunned and didn't understand what was going on. But she didn't show her puzzlement on her face. Her lips only curled into a smile and politely nodded to the vice president secretly. The vice president stroked his beard and smiled in satisfaction. Zi Qianqian's face turned gloomy. She shot a disdainful glance at Yiqing Luo and lowered her voice to ridicule. You really think you're the focus of attention? The vice president isn't even looking at you. What are you so proud of? Yiqing Luo was speechless. How free was Zi Qianqian? So free that he would stare at her for no reason? Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered with Zi Qianqian. But Zi Qianqian obviously didn't intend to let Yiqing Luo off. Su Xiaolian had already sneered. The vice president is looking at our goddess, not any other Tom, Dick or Harry. Yiqing Luo still ignored her. Su Xiaolian had already dragged her other sisters over and began to mock them in low voices. Yiqing Luo could tolerate it. The devil class's students couldn't tolerate it any longer. Kitty Lee's beautiful eyes widened as she stared fiercely at Su Xiaolian. She breathed heavily through her nostrils. Her lips moved slightly, revealing her white teeth, and her slender fingers curled into claws. It seemed like she wanted to rush forward and bite Su Xiaolian and those gossiping female students. But before the devil class students could make a move, Instructor Chu had already walked straight to Su Xiaolian with a cold gaze. Student Su Xiaolian, your performance in the southern continent is enough for the school to force you out. This is your last chance. If you don't want this chance, then I can fulfill your wish. Su Xiaolian's face turned pale and subconsciously grabbed Instructor Chu's sleeve. Instructor? I'm sorry, I don't dare. I don't dare. Instructor Chu snorted coldly and shook off Su Xiaolian's hand and returned to the front of the team. This episode caused the other students who wanted to cause trouble to not dare to open their mouths or play any trick. Kitty Lee retracted her claws and made a funny face at Su Xiaolian. Soon after, she turned her head seriously and looked at the vice headmaster in front of her. The vice principal of the General Institute spoke for a period of time before getting down to business. This time, the 7-day training will be conducted by Master Gui Wu, whom the Lord has sincerely invited, to train the students. Of course, the headquarters will also arrange for 5 instructors to assist Master Gui Wu. Pausing for a moment, the smile on his face widened. Raising his hand, he started to applaud. Now, let us invite Master Gui Wu and our 5 instructors. The students applauded excitedly. A few figures slowly walked over from the other side of the training ground. At the front were 2 handsome young men, followed by 4 middle-aged men. The students widened their eyes as they stared at the 4 middle-aged men, trying to guess which one of them was the ghost martial grandmaster. Before the students could guess what was going on, the 2 youths slowly stepped onto the main stage and stood beside the vice principal. As for the 4 middle-aged men, they stood below the main stage. The students were at a loss. Yiqing Luo was shocked. She looked at the 2 youths in disbelief. It couldn't be. Chapter 1409. The 2 youngsters beside the vice president looked extremely handsome with delicate features, red lips and white teeth. The young man in the moon-white robe was like a charming evildoer. This term, used on a man, was considered as an insult. But Yiqing Luo really couldn't think of any adjectives to describe that young man. This kind of charming evildoer aura, when placed on the young man, didn't have the slightest bit of femininity, on the contrary. It made him even more evildoer, whereas that black-robed young man had a calm and cool temperament. It seemed that he didn't care about anything around him. His eyes couldn't accommodate anyone or anything. These two youngsters, no matter how she looked, were the sons of aristocratic families. He was completely different from the legendary ghost martial artist, who was renowned throughout the world. Yiqing Luo felt that the extremely dignified, immortal-like persona that she had imagined had already collapsed. Similarly, the students from the other major academies, as well as the accompanying instructors, elders, masters and so on were also shocked. No one could believe that these two youngsters who seemed to be around the same age as these students would actually be ghost martial? You must be joking. This is the famous ghost martial grandmaster. The vice president's expression was calm, as if he was already used to the questioning gazes of the crowd. Initially, when he saw Ghost Marshal, he himself had the same thought. Immediately he stood up and walked to the side of that black-robed young man and introduced him. This black-robed young man was Ghost Marshal. He was expressionless, his brows were tightly knitted, showing a trace of impatience. Hearing the vice president's introduction, his expression became increasingly cold. It was until the white-robed young man beside him tugged at his sleeve that Ghost Marshal impatiently moved his lips. "I am Ghost Marshal." For simple words, but they were extremely oppressive. It also made the students from the major academies dumbstruck. This voice didn't sound like an ordinary young man's voice, but it was extremely deep, at least 25 years old and above of a man's voice. It had long been heard that cultivating the profound grade could prolong one's lifespan, and even maintain one's youth forever. Many women had painstakingly cultivated the profound rank precisely because they wanted to maintain their youth forever. And once one reached the profound grade of the sky mystic overlord and above, one could choose to retain one's look. There was a very high possibility that this Gui Wu was a Sky Xian sovereign. The reason why he looked so young must be because he used the profound rank to preserve his youthful appearance. With that in mind, the students could finally accept it in their hearts. Yiqing Luo narrowed her charming eyes as she carefully gazed at Gui Wu's chest. Sky profound supreme martial artist, eternal youth? This ghost martial artist's profound rank was actually so high? She activated the power of her profound heart jade, narrowing her charming eyes. She carefully searched Gui Wu's profound heart jade. However, before her spiritual power could penetrate it, Lin Mingya's eyes widened. All of a sudden, a barrier blocked her psychic energy. Immediately after, a sharp gaze followed the direction of the mental energy and flew straight towards him. This was the first time that Yiqing Luo had failed in probing the other party's profound heart jade. Not only did she fail, but she even allowed the other party to notice her probing. Yiqing Luo panicked momentarily as she hurriedly withdrew her mental power, avoiding her vision. Gui Wu's expression congealed. A pair of sharp and gloomy eyes stared unblinkingly at Yiqing Luo. Slowly, he furrowed his brows. Yiqing Luo was standing in the first row. Gui Wu's gaze, completely without any obstruction, pierced Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo only felt a chill run down her spine. Her heart was incomparably apprehensive. Just at this moment, a tall figure blocked in front of Yiqing Luo. She raised her eyes and saw Instructor Chu's back, blocking Gui Wu's vision for her. Chapter 1410. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly felt warm. Instructor Chu had sensed her panic and uneasiness. This kind of protective action made Yiqing Luo feel extremely warm. Gui Wu's gaze was not concealed at all. He was totally staring at Yiqing Luo. The other academies also looked over. When they realized Gui Wu's gaze had been fixed on Yiqing Luo, those academies' people were about to go crazy. This Gui Wu, could it be that he had also set his eyes on Devil Class? What kind of poison was in this devil class? Each and every one of them seemed to be possessed. Their eyes were staring straight at devil class? That's right, this is Gui Wu who is here to train you. Don't call him master, just call him Ah Wu will do. The white-robed young man put his hand on Gui Wu's shoulder, smiling to smooth things over. Following that, he revealed a devilish smile, like a blooming poppy, exuding a devilish temptation. This young master, am Ah Wu's assistant. Zhou Mo, and also your training instructor. The female students' gazes were instantly attracted by Zhou Mo's smile. That face was absolutely the most devilish face they had ever seen. Different from the Overlord's elegant, peerless temperament. Different from Long Yunzhan's unattainable, iceberg grass temperament. Different from the devil class's handsome, extremely pleasing temperament. This was a kind of, she was like a fox, able to make people sink into her charm with a single glance. She had the ability to seduce people to the point where they were unable to extricate themselves. Over there are also your training instructors, Instructor Ren, Instructor Luo, Instructor Li, Instructor Fong. For the next 7 days, all of you must listen to Ah Wu and the 5 of us training instructors. Do you hear me? The question still had a frivolous tone. However, every single word of his exuded an irresistible pressure. The students seemed to subconsciously, in unison, yes, we hear you. After finishing this sentence, those students were completely stunned. Those students who were able to participate in the exchange were all the elite students of each academy. Naturally, they understood. They listened to Zhou Mo's words, completely because they were awed by Zhou Mo's terrifying aura. There was no resistance at all. Obviously, he looked so amiable, demonic. At this moment, the students finally understood. Under the mask of evil charm and friendliness, this person was truly terrifying. Master Gui Wu, I'll leave these students to you. The vice president of the general hospital said with a smile. The president still needs my help, so I'll go over first. Zhou Mo waved his hand at the vice president. Vice president, take care. Don't worry, Ah Wu will train these students well. In 7 days, I guarantee that you will see a group of students who have been reborn. The vice president of the general hospital smiled and nodded. After the vice principal left, the students' hearts grew heavier and tenser. That majestic aura just now had already intimidated many students. Gui Wu was also not a person who liked to waste time talking nonsense. He looked at the students around him with a cold gaze and said coldly, "It's the first day of training, so I won't make things difficult for you. All of you, run 10 laps around this training ground one by one, then go to the other 4 instructors and test your strength." As soon as the order came down, many students wailed incessantly. This training ground could accommodate at least 3,000 or 4,000 people. If they were to run 10 laps around this place, they estimated that they might not even be able to finish it before midnight, which was 2 or 3 in the afternoon. How could this be called not making things difficult for them? Chapter 14:11. 10 lap. Many of the students, instructors, and elders had a change of expression. Even Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu could not help but change their expressions. Every time Heavenly Academy new students entered the academy, the first thing they trained them to do was to run lap. But they would absolutely not let these students run so many laps in one go. Even if it was them, they might not be able to persevere in completing the 10 laps of the training grounds. The instructors' gazes all looked towards Yiqing Luo. Zi Qianqian and the rest, Devil Class and the others, all looked towards Yiqing Luo. 10 laps. This number was not unfamiliar to Devil Class's students. In their past training, Yiqing Luo placed special emphasis on their physical fitness training, almost hand in hand training them from head to toe. This training ground, if they had to run 10 laps, that wasn't a difficult problem. But, after finishing, they still had to go through the other 4 instructors' ability test? Devil Class's students had also been influenced by instructor Zhou Mo earlier, so they knew that these instructors' ability was absolutely powerful. To test their ability in the hands of those instructors? I'm afraid it would be very difficult. But Devil Class's students saw that Yi Qing Luo's expression, there was no change at all, calm and indifferent. Her gaze was calm, quietly looking at Gui Wu and Zhou Mo. Towards Gui Wu's request, she had no intention to resist. Devil Class's students' hearts gradually quietened down. Looking at Long Yunzhan, he was expressionless, without any emotion. Their hearts had completely calmed down. Their backbone was not afraid. What else were they afraid of? No matter if they could gain the approval of Gui Wu and these instructors. They only needed to put in all their effort, that would be enough. Devil Class's students' gazes gradually became firm. Begin. Gui Wu ignored those students' wailing voices as he gave the order. Yi Qing Luo was the first, as she started running along the periphery of the training ground with a standard posture. Devil Class's students followed closely behind. Damn! They really ran. 10 laps, it's killing. What are you running for? Let's collectively discuss the conditions with Master Gui Wu. At least reduce those few laps. A bunch of idiots, waste class is waste class, I thought they were really capable. The students from other academies gritted their teeth in resentment. But the Devil Class's students had already started running. Their instructors and elders also urged the students to run. Helpless, he could only grit his teeth and force himself to run. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps, 4 laps. By the 5th lap, it was obvious that the other students were starting to sway and were exhausted. At this time, the Devil Class was already halfway through the 6th round. When the students finished the 6th round, there were already a small number of students who couldn't take it anymore and fell to the ground. One had to know, they had been running from the hour of the morning, which was about 9 o'clock in the morning, until noon. It had been a full 4 hours. It was already lunchtime. However, Gui Wu had already given the order. Those who didn't finish the race couldn't even eat. This caused the students of the various academies to complain incessantly. Early in the morning, he was called to the training ground before he even had his breakfast. After another 4 hours of non-stop running, he had exhausted all his strength. When the students finished their 7th round, most of them were exhausted and collapsed on the ground. As for the Devil Class's students, they were already halfway through the 9th round. They only needed to run for another 1 or 2 incense sticks of time, and they would be able to complete the 10th round. Chapter 14:12. The attention of Gui Wu and the few drill instructors were also attracted by the Devil Class. They were extremely curious about the Devil Class. This Devil Class. They were completely like well-trained soldiers. Their running pace was the same, neat and tidy, even their breathing was extremely stable. It gave people a feeling. These people were running in front of a mirror. This tacit understanding. This running posture. Too proper. It was too unbelievable. The few drill instructors continued to conclude that the students of Devil Class had definitely gone through extremely strict training, and they had the habit of running every day. The other students in the Heavenly Academy were lagging behind by more than just a little bit. Even Zi Qianqian, who was originally refreshed and had the bearing of a celestial being, was now running elegantly and beautifully. Towards the end, it became more and more strenuous. After all, they had walked for a full 6 days and only rested for 1 night. This was only the 2nd day. They had already started such a strenuous training. How could they possibly keep up? But didn't the students of Devil Class also walk together with them for 6 days? They could still run so easily now? The other students in the Heavenly Academy were filled with jealousy and resentment. They all thought that the students of Devil Class were trying to show off their strength and to show off in front of the other academies. That was why they mustered up all their energy to snatch the first place in the running circle. After 10 laps, the students of Devil Class steadily stopped at the finishing point. The students at the back were mostly still slowly moving around the 7th lap. There were even some students who were moving around the 5th and 6th lap. Just behind Devil class were Zi Qianqian and Wei Beilai, as well as a few other students from other academies, who were already at the 8th lap. Dismissed. A clear and crisp voice rang out in the neat ranks of Devil class. The Devil class's students then retracted their upright and respectful demeanor. One by one, they dispersed and stood around the training grounds, giving the training grounds to the students who were still running. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo, who were standing not too far away, looked at the situation of the Devil class, their lips curled into a smile. This Devil class is indeed interesting. This time they agreed to deal with the old man from the general courtyard. Gui Wu furrowed his brows and said in an impatient tone, "It's obvious that you've taken a fancy to that female student from the Devil class, and you insist on dragging me along to waste time." Zhou Mo raised his eyebrows. "That's where you're wrong. Although student Yiqing Luo's looks are not bad and also suits my taste, but she's not a woman that I can touch." Yo? Gui Wu's interest was piqued. "There's actually a woman that our young master Zhou Mo doesn't dare to touch? She's Di Zun's woman." Zhou Mo rubbed his chin and narrowed his eyes. "This young master doesn't have the ability to go against the Emperor Palace. Sovereign's woman?" A sliver of astonishment flashed past Gui Wu's eyes as he narrowed his eyes to size up Yiqing Luo. "She is indeed different from ordinary people." "You noticed it too?" Zhou Mo's thin lips curled into a smile. "Looks like Ah Wu has also been attracted by student Yiqing Luo's charm." Gui Wu shot a cold glance at Zhou Mo. Zhou Mo couldn't help but rub his nose. "I was just joking. Don't take it seriously." Chapter 14-13. Zhou Mo's eyes widened in astonishment. "She's searching for your profound jade heart? This lady, she's really daring." She almost succeeded. Gui Wu's voice turned gloomier. "Her profound jade heart's grade is probably not low. It's rare to hear you praise someone." Zhou Mo patted Gui Wu's shoulder in amazement as he laughed. "Little master feels that it's a wise choice to forcefully drag you to agree to that old man's request." Gui Wu rolled his eyes at him. Towards this brother with a hole in his brain, Gui Wu didn't want to ridicule him anymore. Yiqing Luo stood and rested for the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. They didn't find a place to rest or wipe off their perspiration. Instead, they looked as though nothing had happened as they stood by the side watching the other students moving like snails. They even whispered to each other from time to time, talking about the students' wrong way of running. They didn't look like people who continuously ran for more than 6 hours? Even those instructors were stunned. One of the instructors, Instructor Luo, couldn't hold it in any longer. He walked over to Devil class's side and roughly confirmed that the leader of these students was Yiqing Luo. He stood by Yiqing Luo's side and asked in a low voice, "This student, your class, has it undergone special physical training?" "Instructor Luo." Yiqing Luo immediately greeted him respectfully, nodded her head and smiled politely. "The Heavenly Academy has a special physical fitness training program. Master Gui Yu and Master Mo also emphasized on maintaining physical fitness training every day." She didn't intentionally deny it. Instead, she directly brought out Gui Yu and Master Supreme Mo. Only the insiders in Heavenly Academy knew of Gui Yu's name. Instructor Luo treated him as a teacher in Heavenly Academy. But Master Supreme Mo's status in the headquarters was rather high. As a teacher in the headquarters, the headquarter had a record of him heading to Heavenly Academy for an inspection. Hence, when Instructor Luo heard that Supreme Mo had also taught the Devil class before, he naturally attributed the credit of the Devil class being able to run 10 laps without any pressure to Supreme Mo. All the way till it was close to 5 p.m., which was 3 in the afternoon. Those students who had not been carried down had finally completed the 10 lap. After running, the students couldn't even lift their legs. After 10 laps, at least 200 students were carried off the training ground. On the training ground, more than 2,000 students were lying on the ground. They were so hungry that their chests were sticking to their backs, and they were grumbling non-stop. However, it didn't mean that those who finished first could eat first. Instead, he had to wait for everyone to finish running before all the students went to the cafeteria to eat together. In the words of the training instructor, it was, "When we train here, we are not students of the various academies, but a group, a collective. No matter what you do or what training you do, you must be prepared as a team." Yes, community. They were trained under the hands of the ghost warriors. He would have to forget his identity as an academy student. If you want to eat early, you want to leave early. In that case, he would urge the students who had yet to complete their tasks to complete them as soon as possible. Otherwise, the entire group would starve together. After running, Gui Wu looked at the incense burner beside him. Chapter 14:14. They're all still students and can be trained slowly. Don't put on a long face and scare these kids. Zoemo smiled as he tried to smooth things over. His demonic phoenix eyes swept across the training grounds and the students who had collapsed into a pile. He grinned and said, "You guys must be hungry too. The canteen is in front and turn left. It's 500 meters away. Let's go eat." Hearing a youth who looked to be around the same age as them calling them kids, the students felt as if thunder was rolling in their hearts. But at this moment, the students didn't have the mood to complain about this thunder. Hearing that they could eat, their eyes all lit up. Almost all of the students hadn't eaten anything since morning, even if their bodies were tired, even if they didn't have the strength to stand up. But they still forced their sore limbs to support each other as they stood up and wanted to rush towards the canteen. Soon after, on the high platform, Zoemo, who was still grinning evilly, said, "You only have 1 hour to eat. If you exceed the time, you will be like those students who were carried off the track just now. Eliminated from this round of training." The last 2 words, Zoemo purposely paused and said it slowly, smiling lightly, evildoer unparalleled. But the words that came out made everyone's faces pale. Like those students who were carried off. Eliminated? Which meant the 10 laps of training just now was actually a test training. All the students secretly broke out in cold sweat. They were all glad that they didn't pretend to be weak and fainted because of the influence of those students who were carried off. There were also some students who started to sneer. Those students who pretended to faint and were carried off were still gloating, thinking that their little tricks had allowed them to escape this round of training. But they didn't know that they had long been eliminated from this round of training. This also meant that the eliminated students had brought shame to the school that they represented, which also meant that the eliminated students had to stop in this round of the school's exchange meet. Everyone was still secretly rejoicing in their hearts. In the next instant, a whirlwind was seen flying in the direction of the left turn. Following closely behind, many figures followed, maintaining the same speed and the same movement. The students of Devil class all ran towards the canteen. The students who were still in a daze immediately came back to their senses. They all focused their attention on the students who were carried off the stage and eliminated. However, he had ignored Gui Wu's previous sentence. They only had an hour to eat. In other words, half an hour later, the ghost martial artists still wanted to test and train them? They thought that they could rest after running. Didn't you say that you wouldn't make things difficult for them? These instructors are all liars. The students were crying in their hearts. However, in order to stay, he could only listen to Gui Wu's orders. After the students of Devil class rushed to the canteen, they quickly ordered porridge and steamed buns, etc. Each of them had a bowl of plain porridge, 2 steamed buns, and some side dishes. As for the other students, although they were hungry and tired, after running for a full 6 hours, they were already exhausted. Moreover, all of them were young masters and young ladies. The food in the cafeteria was so bland. It was so bland that even the servants and their family ate better than these things. He immediately lost his appetite. Chapter 14:15. It was just a joss stick worth of time. In the originally bustling cafeteria, there were only 100 or so tables of students left in silence. 2,000 over students, the remaining 500 to 600 students. Eat slowly, it's still early, don't rush. Yiqing Luo's cold voice entered Devil Class's students' eardrums. She didn't say a word and used the World Mercenary Group's badge to transmit her voice. Devil Class's students, ever since they didn't need to be secretive, they hung the World Group's badge on their bodies. This was beneficial for them to contact each other in time. Yan Xiaoyi stuffed a mouthful of steamed bun. 1 hour later, we still need to continue training? Can those students take it? Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Whether they can take it or not will depend on their own willpower. But Gui Wu's training method feels as though he is intentionally forcing us students to give up on this training. Ever since she met Gui Wu, Yiqing Luo had been using this feeling. Gui Wu actually didn't want to train them. But the self-proclaimed assistant of Gui Wu was the instructor beside him, Zhou Mo, who was leading all the training. Thinking of that Zhou Mo, Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo's profound grades are unfathomable, I can't detect it. The other 4 instructors' profound grades are all around Earth profound 5th grade. Pausing for a moment, she continued, That's right, be careful of Zhou Mo. He isn't as easy to get along with as he looks. On the contrary, Gui Wu shows everything on his face, so it's easier to understand Gui Wu's thoughts. Devil Class's students agreed with her. That Zhou Mo's aura was simply too strong. It was comparable to their Madame Qing Luo's aura when she was angry. The next training should be one-on-one hand-to-hand combat with those drill instructors without the use of profound qi. Yiqing Luo reminded them, Gui Wu is known as the martial fanatic, so the people he brought along are definitely experts in physical combat. Don't force yourself, just try your best. Devil Class's students nodded their heads. Earlier Gui Wu had mentioned this. After running 10 rounds, they would be going to the other 4 instructors to test their abilities. According to Gui Wu's character, it would definitely be physical combat. Just at this moment, a weak voice was heard from the badge, That, I heard your conversation, is it alright? Devil Class's students were stunned. This voice was somewhat familiar. Han Shang. Yiqing Luo inquired softly. A reply came from the other side, Qing Luo, it's me. The owner of this voice was Mo Han Shang. The young master of the Mercenary Guild had also joined the World Mercenary Group. The Mercenary Group badge could only transmit messages within 100 meters. Mo Han Shang was able to hear their words and was also able to communicate with them. In other words, Mo Han Shang was also in the canteen? The other students of the Devil Class reacted and quickly turned their gazes to the surroundings of the canteen. Indeed, at a table in the corner of the canteen, he saw Mo Han Shang. Mo Han Shang was dressed in a white-colored academy uniform. He looked at the school uniform and saw the logo of Nantao Academy. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt that the world was really small. She had just had a conflict with the headmaster of Nantao Academy yesterday. Unexpectedly, Mo Han Shang was actually a student of Nantao Academy. The headmaster of Nantao and the Heavenly Academy had been fighting for more than 10 years. After last night, Dean Nantao probably hated their Devil Class to the core. Mo Han Shang was a student of Nantao Academy,